In this episode, I share important information about neurodivergence and how it impacts sound therapy sessions. 15 to 20% of the global population is considered neurodivergent. That's roughly 1 in 5 people. I dive into why, as practitioners, we have to take this into consideration.
You are listening to the Sound Therapy Network podcast, where we talk about all things sound healing. This podcast is for practitioners and clients who want to learn more about this magical healing modality.
Welcome to the Sound Therapy Network podcast. I am your host, Niajae, owner of Bliss Wellness Studio in Tampa, Florida, and the creator of Somatic Sound Therapy. If you are new to this podcast or don't know much about my background, I've been in wellness and fitness my whole adult life. Before becoming certified in sound therapy, I received 13 fitness and wellness certifications. In addition, I attended a trauma-informed training by my business therapist and mentor. So naturally, getting into sound therapy, I had a deeper understanding of the nervous system, wellness, and what's actually safe for the body. I've also been conducting research and test studies on sound therapy for years, and I'm an avid researcher. My current research is on neurodivergence, specifically pertaining to sound and how sound and vibration impacts someone who is neurodivergent. In this episode, I am going to break down what neurodivergence is, what's important to know as a practitioner, and how we can minimize doing harm unknowingly in our sound therapy sessions. Neurodivergent describes people whose brains function, learn, and process information differently from what is considered typical. It's not a medical diagnosis, but an umbrella term for neurological variations. I'm going to list some of the common neurodivergent conditions. So the one I would say is most common is ADHD. So it used to be called ADD because they left out the hyperactivity, but now it is ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. This is the one that I would say people are most familiar with. And then we get into autism. So autism spectrum disorder, and then dyslexia. So differences in reading and language processing, and then Tourette's. So there's also mental health conditions that are often included in neurodivergence. OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder, PTSD or complex PTSD, which this is really important for practitioners to know if a client has PTSD because it creates nervous system hypervigilance and trauma-based responses. So when it comes to sound and vibration, we have to be mindful if someone has PTSD because sound and touch can trigger someone's PTSD or complex PTSD. Then we have anxiety disorders, so generalized anxiety, panic disorders, and social anxiety. And then we have depression, which is very common in our society. And then we have sensory-based differences. So we have sensory processing disorders, so SPD, and this is over or under sensitivity to sound, light, touch, or movement. And then we have auditory processing disorder, so difficulty processing sound clearly. Sounds may feel overwhelming or distorted. And lastly, we have trait-based, which is not clinical, but still very important. So these are not always diagnosis, but are very prevalent in our society and important for us to understand as practitioners. So highly sensitive person, HSP. It's actually a really great book, The Highly Sensitive Person. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. This is someone that can be deeply emotional or have sensitivity around sensation. They get very easily overstimulated. And then we have sensory sensitivity traits. Even without a clear diagnosis, this is an individual that is sensitive to noise, sensitive to energy shifts, and easily overwhelmed. So let's go over some statistics. 15 to 20% of the global population is considered neurodivergent. That's roughly 1 in 5 people. Around 8 to 10% of children and around 4 to 5% of adults have ADHD. Many adults are undiagnosed, especially women. About 1 in 36 children in the US are diagnosed with autism. Many adults remain undiagnosed or misdiagnosed. And then HSPs, highly sensitive people, estimated to be 15 to 30% of the population. Again, not a diagnosis, but a nervous system trait. It's important to understand as well, neurodivergence research is still evolving. Many people are undiagnosed, misdiagnosed, or self-identify later in life. A lot of people have never been screened for any of this, or they just feel weird or like they're an outcast or they're just different in today's society. But our society is waking up and doing more research, so we're going to find these numbers increasing rapidly. So just think about, if you have a sound bath of 10 people, how many people in that session could potentially be neurodivergent? And then add in trauma. Studies suggest a significant overlap between trauma and neurodivergence, and trauma can increase sensitivity to sound, lower tolerance for stimulation, and create hypervigilance. So this is why this is a very important conversation. It's important for practitioners to be trauma informed so they're not unknowingly causing harm when the number of neurodivergent individuals in our sound baths could be higher than what we're aware of. And they may already have sensitivity to sound or sensation. So when a practitioner is playing a bunch of instruments and playing really loud and intensely to an already sensitive nervous system, that's going to do more harm than good. Even neurotypical individuals are burnt out and their nervous systems are overstimulated. So imagine a highly sensitive person that's also burnt out, how sensitive their nervous system is. So as practitioners, this is why I stress this so much. We have to be mindful of how loud we're playing bowls, how intensely we're playing gongs, how many bells and whistles and sharp and bright sounds we're playing, because this could be negatively impacting our clients. So if someone in your session is neurodivergent, they likely have a sensitivity to sound. High-pitched tones can feel sharp, alarming, triggering. Bells and chimes can mimic notifications, alerts, alarms. Sensitivity to vibration. Bowls on the body can feel too intense, startling, or dysregulating, especially if you're not using a felt tip mallet. So I talk about this all the time. When you have the bowls on the body, it's important to use a felt tip mallet and not the wooden suede mallet. That is going to be overstimulating and jarring to the nervous system. And what I instruct my practitioners to do that go through the somatic sound therapy practitioner certification is focus more on vibration and not sound. And that makes a huge, huge difference in a session being soothing and regulating versus being overstimulating. Someone who is neurodivergent can also have a sensitivity to touch. So unexpected touch can trigger a threat response. Even gentle placement can feel invasive without consent. Consent is so important. Again, this is why it's important for practitioners to have trauma-informed training. I've been to multiple sessions where I was touched without consent, or they sprayed rose water in my face, or swiped me with a feather, or gave me a temple or foot massage without asking. And even someone like myself who exposes myself to a lot of these types of sessions, it's still not comfortable. And so this is a really important conversation that I will continue to have to create more safety in the healing space, because if it's uncomfortable for me, imagine someone who is neurodivergent. Imagine someone who has experienced any type of abuse. Touch without consent is going to cause harm. It's going to dysregulate and trigger someone's nervous system. And it's happening every single day in sessions. In a world where 71% of people are already overstimulated, then add in an extra layer of sensitivity, it's important for practitioners to understand what is overstimulating to the nervous system. And this is not a rant or a slap on the wrist. This is an important conversation to create more safety in the space. And here's another thing that I hear practitioners say often. Well, my client loved it. We cannot always depend on client feedback. Understanding masking. So clients can look calm, but their nervous system isn't. They can look calm, but be dissociating. They can look calm, but be overwhelmed. And a lot of times people are programmed to remain calm in dangerous situations. That's fawning. It's a trauma response. And they can completely shut down or astral project. Astral projection can be a form of dissociating and usually starts as a trauma response, leaving your body because it's too overwhelmed. So it's important for practitioners to understand just because someone is still, it doesn't mean they feel safe. Just because someone gave positive feedback doesn't mean it was actually repairing and regulating to the nervous system. People do stuff every single day that's overstimulating to their nervous system, but they don't have the awareness around it. So it's important for practitioners to have the awareness around what is actually overstimulating. If we're facilitating sound therapy sessions professionally, this is not something to take lightly. We're working with real nervous systems, real trauma, and real people who are trusting us with their safety. Doing this research on neurodivergence has really inspired me to update my intake forms, and that's the beauty on continuing to do trainings. I hear practitioners say all the time, "Oh, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing this for 10 years. Things have changed in the last 10 years. Things have changed in the last 5 years. Like post-COVID, 5 or 6 years, things are drastically different. So it is important to continue to receive training, even if you've been doing this for 10, 20, 30 years. And I've been doing this for a while, but I still learn and research. And then when I research something, it inspires me to tweak and shift. And so now I'm inspired to update my intake form and take extra precaution around someone who may be neurodivergent. Test the sounds if I know that they may be on the spectrum. Definitely test sounds if they have PTSD. And I'm sure that there's plenty of practitioners that don't even have intake forms. I've been to several sound baths and healing sessions and did not fill out intake forms. So there's probably a large portion of practitioners that don't even have intake forms. And this, again, is why being trauma informed is so important. If you are a practitioner interested in our trauma-informed sound therapy practitioner certification and you made it all the way through this episode, I'm going to offer you a special discount for listening and also taking nervous system safety seriously. Use coupon code DIVERGENT for $150 off of our trauma-informed sound therapy practitioner certification. Just because I feel so passionate about this and I want to create more safety in the healing space, especially for those with sensory sensitivities. The world is already loud, already chaotic, already overwhelming as it is. If our sessions are grounding and soothing, it allows our clients to escape the chaos and truly repair and regulate their nervous systems. Share this episode with someone who practices sound or has interest in practicing sound, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future important topics. Until next time, wishing you healing and harmony.
Thank you so much for listening to the Sound Therapy Network podcast. Edgar Cayce says, sound is the medicine of the future. The future is now. By listening and sharing this podcast, you are contributing to the wave of healing in the world and safety in the healing space.